in my very chaotically impatient fashion, I've got myself a little external mic that I have not test run. We're just going for it. Also didn't like how it clipped onto my t-shirt, so here we are hand holding it. Already one too many external factors that can go wrong with today's audio, but let's hope for the best. I was going to do a fancy schmancy kind of showing you what I got up to intro to this vlog, but I think it's been a while since I just did a casual sit down one, just something that you can throw on in the background, not worrying if you've missed any visual cues or little diary entries on screen that I like to put in. Wow, I really feel like I'm in my ASMR era. It feels nice to not have to project my voice. This is nice, this is soothing, this is relaxing for me. There was a lot of unanswered questions, I feel like, from my move out vlog. If you're late to the party, you haven't seen it, I'll leave it in the top line of the description. Catch up there first, come back here. Yes, I've officially moved out of New York City. I took your guys' questions from the comments of my last video, which I received so much incredible, heartfelt, warm, lovely comments from. There were so many I actually couldn't get back to them all, which rarely happens, but I felt them all, I read them all. They were all such long comments, and you really touched me, and I just want to say thank you for that. I also took your questions from Instagram. You guys really came through with some great post moving, post New York life questions, so thank you for the creativity. We have to get the basic ones out of the way because a lot of people were confused, because from my side, I just assume everyone has a little bit of a tab on my life. And I'll be honest, I was so caught up with the moving vlog in the last video, I never actually said where I was going, what I was doing. It just was very much focused on packing up and moving stuff, and I didn't really like address anything specifically because I guess I just kind of assumed you guys would have an idea of what was happening. I knew I had more to tell you, obviously. Molly asks, where are you moving to? What's next for termers? Can't wait to see. What is next for termers? I'll tell you. As you can see, I am back in Vancouver at sort of our base here, where my boyfriend has been based for the last year and a half. I think I've come here at least 6 times in the last year and a half, so I feel like I've split a lot of my time between New York and here, so it hasn't been kind of a dramatic shift for me. I've spent a lot of time here, sometimes like over a month at a time. The stuff that you saw me packing up in the video to be shipped is on its way back to Ireland. It'll take 2 or 3 months. How long are we here for? That's where it kind of gets to the part where I haven't really explained our plans, but we've only really honestly known these plans for about a month and a half, 2 months ourselves. So many of you were excited to hear I was coming back to Vancouver. I think I misled you guys in thinking I would be here for a super long time, or that this was a permanent move for the foreseeable. And even though it does feel like a quote unquote proper move in, like I've brought a bunch of stuff, it does feel a little temporary because we are planning on going back to Ireland, which was somebody else's question as well. There was a lot of repeat questions. A lot of people sort of already assuming I'd be going back to Ireland, but yes, we do plan to go back to Ireland in towards end of January type of situation. We're going to get into it. We're going to be expanding on this whole journey with some of the other questions, but yeah, that's kind of the aim, is that we're back in Ireland kind of beginning of February, basically to stay in Vancouver for 3 months. So November, December, January, a little bit of traveling in between. I've got a little trip at the end of December, and then the plan was to go back to Ireland for a kind of undecided or not concrete period of time. Could be 6 months, could be a year. I'm kind of just telling myself a year. I've done almost a month of that 3 months here already, just in peace and quiet and recovery, and it's been lovely. So the journey isn't complete yet. It's a bit of a hop, skip, and a jump type of situation where I'm kind of bopping around for a while, but right now I'm really happy to be settled here for kind of an extended period of time and just have kind of like a cozy winter coupled up in Vancouver. How do you feel about going back to Ireland? And that was from Jess Marie. I honestly feel really, really good. I've had a lot of time to mentally prepare, and I've finally come like full circle to the point where like I'm actually excited. So I've gone from like terrified and nervous for so many reasons to now at the point where I'm very at peace with it. I think it's a good time for me to explore being back in Ireland for a while, in the same way that New York had a certain pull for me. I think Ireland right now also has a really important pull for me. I don't know if I already said this, but someone definitely did ask, would my boyfriend be coming? And yes, we're going to be going back together, um, back to where I'm from originally in Cork. I'm not far from outside Cork city centre. He's a Galway man, but he spent 8 years in Cork and he loves Cork. So thankfully, that's going to be a smooth transition. I'm really grateful for that. That isn't something that we need to mull over, discuss, and he's been very, very supportive in kind of the whole like reasoning for going home and just being there by my side. We have been looking at daft.ie and some of those rental websites. So this is my official plea. If anyone out there is watching and knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a girl, and is renting things that are not listed online in Ireland, just cute, bright spaces. You guys know me. I want to like where I live, and I'm cashing in all of my favors on this one. Get in touch, DM me, email me, if you happen to know somebody that will be renting out a space in Cork. Come Feb, we're hopefully looking to get a house, even a small house, cottage potentially. My mood board is giving old character home or cottage in a field. Here's the thing, I like to be unrealistic with my expectations and my goals. I like to dream big. It's worked for me so far. So right now, the things that are on my bucket list are really good lighting, just a bright home, character home, just something with redeeming quality. But we've kind of seen some properties that we like, some properties that are in our budget online that are obviously like it's not the right timing now. So I'm keeping optimistic that something like what I've seen will pop up at the right time. I don't know, in and around 30 minutes of Cork City. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, if anyone has a hookup, this is my shameless plug because your girl's gonna need some help on that. Carmena asks, did something trigger the move or was it just the right time? Yeah, I suppose there was kind of a number of things that led up. Like I'd kind of known it for a while. I remember after pandemic summer, like I admittedly, despite the pandemic, had a lot of fun that summer. And I think a lot of people in New York would agree, like pandemic summer was like this weird haze of like terror, but also like so much joy. I remember the following summer, we were all processing, like deeply processing. And I just remember thinking, if this kind of vibe continues, I'm gonna go. I think I've peaked. I don't think anything will ever beat that summer. But saying that, I still had some time left on my visa, and there wasn't anything that was rushing me out of New York. I was really enjoying my everyday, despite like having a boyfriend long distance. I'm very intuitive, and I didn't feel like it was the right time to go, but I knew the time was closing in. I'll be honest, I know how I am, and I cling on to things, and I really don't really lean into change that easily when it comes to like the big foundational stuff. And I started to feel that feeling when I was in my last previous relationship and I knew I should have made a call earlier and I never did. Like I never did until it was like the very, when the crunch really came. I felt that similar sensation, I suppose, of like needing to make a decision. And I just knew if I didn't make the decision, like that previous situation, something would happen that would essentially make the decision for me. And I wanted control this time. I wanted to be a bit braver and just not let it get to that point. So I kind of knew that 2023 was going to be my last year there. But then when everything went down with my dad over the summer, which I kind of talked on back in vlogs in August, that really again was just another sign that was like pushing me back towards Ireland and going back. And after being essentially away for 10, 11 years, because I went to uni away from home, 7 hours away, and I spent a lot of time away there. And then being in New York for almost 8 years, I've been away for a long time and I've always made the effort to go home. But, my parents are aging and my dad's sort of health situation emergency over the summer really like put that into perspective, and I guess helped push along that decision even faster. Like when I got back to New York, I genuinely didn't know whether I'd be back in New York for a week packing up my things and whether I would need to go home and like assist my mom, or whether I'd be in New York for another year. I really didn't know what I was coming back to when I came back mid-August. And thankfully, everything smoothed out at home, and my mom's been great, my dad's been good, and it's given me time to come up with my own plan and leave on my own terms and not leave in a horrible panic, because I really didn't want that. I mean, I would have done it if I had needed to, but it didn't come down to that. I'm very grateful. And instead of being sad about the time I had left in New York, I actually just really valued knowing that, okay, I have 2 or 3 months here to really come back and enjoy quality time with the friends I have left in New York, make some more memories, and just kind of leave on a good note, knowing that it was, my own decision and it wasn't something that was ripped away from me, which really feels empowering. Before I actually put my notice in, I was umming and ahhing. I was so anxious. I was just like, you know what? I need to just take control of this situation and make a decision. And that's one thing I would say. If you have a choice between two options and one of them involves you being able to make a decision, do that, because instantly when you take control, a lot of the anxiety just goes away. And that was very empowering. Like once I did that, once I handed in my notice, I immediately felt that like sense of relief, which is always my gut feeling sign that I've done the right thing. But yeah, there was a few things. It wasn't just stuff with my dad. Me and my boyfriend obviously were getting kind of sick of doing long distance. We really took our time, like we really took things slowly over the past 3 years and honored each other's journeys, which I really do think that that was the right thing to do, just to take things slow and, prolong this lovely, excitement that we've had going back and forth, seeing each other. But also, like, my visa is up in December, which I've been quite open about. Usually I start the process of renewing about now, or I'd be definitely handing in my application for a new visa. But I just decided to let it run out. It's out in December, and yeah, that was like such a strange feeling, like not applying for a visa after being here for 8 years and doing it like 3 times. But yeah, I was on the O visa. It's essentially an entertainment visa. A lot of influencers are on one, actors. I'm assigned to an agency, so they're technically my employment. Who knows? May not be the last. I might reapply again if, I need to come back and work in the States, but we're just going to see how it goes for now. I'm very familiar with the process, but it's a horrible, lengthy, tedious, expensive thing to do. And yeah, my heart wasn't in it this time. All roads were pointing to this one. Amanda, who's a lovely follower of mine, said, OMG, you seriously did do an internet Irish exit. Yes, I did. Like genuinely online, but I guess also in real life. I was gonna do the whole going away party, and honestly, it was so depressing. I was just really thinking about how I wanted to go, and that was just not how I wanted to go. I didn't want to do a big sad, like, oh, like for me, it's like a see you later with anyone that I meet, with anywhere that I go. It's a see you later. And I'm gonna be back in New York. I've already got plans to go back next summer. I've got weddings here, I've got fun stuff here. So it just like didn't make any sense to make a big deal out of it. And like I said in my last vlog, I was trying to minimize this whole like making a big deal of certain things in order to keep myself calm and relaxed. But yeah, it was definitely an Irish goodbye. And I'm sorry, there was 1 or 2 people that were upset that I didn't do a meetup and things like that. Honestly, guys, it didn't cross my mind. Like the thing is about me, even though I post these videos online and I'm online every day on Instagram, like when I'm in my own space, when I leave the house, I don't really think anyone wants to see me in real life. You know what I mean? And to that, I would say maybe in the future. I was lucky to have 2 opportunities, I think, this past year to do like closet sales and meet you guys in safe, organized spaces. But it's one of those things, like, unless it's like an organized thing, um, in this, like, for safety on so many levels, maybe there's a brand out there or something like that that can help me organize it, but it's something that I find difficult to navigate and organize on my own. I also just feel like it's one of those things that people will say they'll come and then like no one turns up, and that is genuinely an anxiety of mine. Katia asks, do you see yourself visiting NYC often? And honestly, like I do. I love New York, and I see myself going there like at least twice a year, potentially for weeks at a time. Like if I was to go to New York, it would kill me to only go for a week. Lola, who's a lovely audience member of mine, asks, what are you most excited for in the next phase? And similarly, somebody else asks, where are you heading goals wise and for this next phase of life? What's the vibe of this new era? Before we continue with your juicy questions, shout out to our sponsors today, my monthly partners, Squarespace. My regulars already know where it's at, but if you are new or lately you've just been deciding that now is the time to create your slice of the internet, Squarespace has you covered. They are your all-in-one platform to design a website from start to finish. I'm talking the name, the design, the easy to use templates, which basically act as a guide for uploading your own content. You can customize them further, but they're just a good jumping off point. Whether you're looking for a blog, an e-portfolio to display your work, or maybe an e-commerce shop like I have on loversunday.com, you want to sell a few bits, they pretty much have a template for anything you're looking for. Of course, it is all highly customizable, so you can put your own spin on it. Squarespace platform is made for the everyday person to be able to design their own website. But if you do need any help, they have a fantastic 24/7 support team. Should you need any assistance implementing any of their incredible features, such as their merch store capabilities, other cool things like exclusive content, membership features, subscriptions, all of these other cool ways that you can make money through your website. Like I said, it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use. If you want to give it a go for yourself, I have a 2-week free trial where you can tinker around. It is squarespace.com/Tarmar, but it will always be in the top line of the description. And if you decide to push your site live in the future, you'll always get 10% off your future billing with code TARMAR. All right, let's get back into it. So in terms of this new phase, new era, I can only really think as far as this 3-month Vancouver chapter, and it's become very, very apparent to me that this is about rest and recuperation, lots of self-care after a crazy few months of up and down roller coaster vibe. The universe has been doing her thing. She's been talking to me, and as soon as I started getting antsy and anxious and in my New York, like I have to be doing something, I can't rest, I can't relax, I can't read this book, started seeing all of these messages everywhere about it just being a time to go slow, recalibrate, refocus, and just enjoy the simple things. And I actually am planning to do a video on all of like the self-care things that I want to build into my habits and my routines, because I have literally created a list. So if you feel like that would be a good video idea, let me know, because I'm thinking of just taking you on that little journey of all of the things I want to do and try. My body has been responding so well to essentially moving to Vancouver. Obviously, I've been here loads of times as a trip, but it's been really made clear to me how leaving New York behind has impacted my health. I don't think it was the same when I used to come here for little trips, because my body is doing all sorts of things for the better it was not doing before. My stress levels are so much lower. Like I did the most I could to keep my stress to a minimum in New York. I kept my life very zen as much as I could, but there's just this low-lying energy of being in the city that you're absorbing all of the time. And it was beyond anything I could do for myself holistically other than leaving. So yeah, I think that's really helped in the transition, is seeing how well my body is responding, and just all of the things that I'm getting to enjoy that I haven't let myself enjoy. For example, one second. Where is it? Well, there it is. There it is. Oh, okay. Shimmying back. On my way back. Resuming filming very shortly. All right, we are back, people. This damn thing. I bought this Kindle 4 years ago. So this is a prime example of like something my mind just could not relax into in New York. Reading a book for fun. The only things I was reading were things related to work, hypnosis, self-development, all of that stuff, which I love, but it's always like reading that's going towards something. It's never just reading for the frivolity of reading some fiction. I love this thing. It's just a basic Kindle, like black and white, lights up. My evenings have just been filled being off my phone, which is also very healthy, and just getting submersed in something that isn't counting towards anything but me just reading for the sheer escapism and joy of it. So, what have I been reading, you ask? Well, my friend Christy is a fantasy nerd, okay? And I'm not gonna lie, I've been very intrigued with the whole ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns. I'm absolutely addicted to this thing. I feel like it makes you read so much more. It's so like easy to hold. And I was a bit curious myself. I do like fantasy shows and I'm very open to the genre. It's definitely, it's a bit of fairy smut here and there. I stuck around for the second book, which you all say is like the best book, and I am about 600 pages into the second book now, the Court of Mist and Fury, and I really, really do love the second book. Easy fantasy read that you can kind of get sucked into. I have been bombing through them. I wouldn't say I'm like a super fan or anything, but I definitely have been enjoying. Are you anxious about the move affecting your career? Honestly, up to a few months ago, yes, I was. Of course, I was. There is no city like New York for doing content creation, and I find like as a place that really respects the work, it's a lovely place to be. Like everyone really sees it as a full-time job and something that isn't like an embarrassing thing to do or anything, which I think in a lot of places it's still not really taken that seriously. So it's a huge industry in New York. There's probably nowhere in the world where you can get paid as much for what you do. So that was definitely the last thing keeping me in New York. But I'm definitely at peace with it now. If you listened to the intro of my last vlog, I kind of explain how I came to the decision that it was time to go, and a lot of that helped me cope with the change, I suppose. I just felt like I've shifted my perspective, and I know now that I got the most that I could out of the New York experience. I finally came around to this knowing, with the help of others and other mentors and other guides, that there is more waiting for me on the other side, on the next phase, on the next chapter, if I can just kind of be brave enough to take the step into the unknown, that I will have these other opportunities that weren't available to me before. And after getting here, I can already see how my work ethic is shifting, how I have way more breathing space and mental room to process what I'm doing and to do things intentionally. And I've been doing so many creative things, like revisiting old creative projects that, again, New York just couldn't make room for in my brain. And that's felt really, really good to see how this change already is freeing up space for me to do other things and make more content and make more stuff that's meaningful to me. So before I was like scared because I'm like, oh my God, like people love New York and like what are they going to follow me for now? But now I see the journey, especially over the next few months and even year, is going to be worth following, and I'm going to adjust, and it's making room for other content that I wasn't able to really focus on before, and that's kind of put like a positive spin on the whole thing, and it's made me excited now more than anything. Was the realization on timing to leave fully internal, or were there any synchronicities that helped? This is from Elle. Yes, aside from the things that had happened over the summer that transpired, then once I decided, everything started really lining up. And a few weeks before, probably when I got back, actually, I started kind of like saying out loud and speaking to the powers that be, my guides, all of that jazz. I just kept saying, please make this easy for me. Like, please show me how to do this in the smoothest way. If there's any angels or spirit guides that assist with life change and move, like, let them be around me. Let them align things in such a way that make this process as smooth as possible, because I know how I am. And with me, when I get overwhelmed, I get really emotional and I like freeze in response, and I kind of just like didn't want any of that this time. I wanted to be prepared, I wanted to be calm, I wanted to be a good thing, a happy thing. The powers that be came through. There was so many synchronicities that happened, and every time they happened I was just like, okay, like I'm on the right path. Like I know how my language is with the universe, and I know I can spot things, when they line up, that it's like a little pat on the back, which I think before I get into, I have to answer this question. Was your landlord super thankful for the updates you made to the unit? Yes, they were actually. They were really sound about it. I mean, they had seen the apartment before after I did all the changes, but every time they came in, they were just like, wow, like you really did a great job of this place. And one of the synchronicities I feel like the universe was really helping me along was, when they came over a month early, I had put in my notice, like the same guy that basically got me the apartment. And yeah, he came in. Look, you've been a great tenant. Like, I'm going to make sure that you get your deposit back. And he wrote me the check over a month early. And I don't know why, but I was really dreading the whole process of trying to get deposits back. I was just like, oh, what if they, like the apartment, but then like flip on their word and say like, oh, you've made all these changes, we're not giving you your deposit back. So I was a little bit nervous, but when he said that, I was just like, that meant a lot to me. And that felt like, okay, I'm getting my deposit back. Not only that, they gave me an extra $1,000 for like all of the changes that I made. So again, I love a good manifestation moment. Not that I was manifesting $1,000, but it just seemed like, oh my God, like this was money out of nowhere. Like I didn't ask for this money, I didn't whatever, but I just took it as like a good omen. Like, look, you did the hard thing, you handed in your notice, it was making you really anxious, and now here's your deposit back early plus $1,000 just cause. So that was a little thing. And then finding out that my one of my best friends, like pretty much my oldest friend in New York, from uni, that she was leaving and moving out of New York on the same day as me, which you would have also saw in my last vlog. Everything just went smooth. Things with the movers went smooth. I definitely feel like more often than not, the right path is the path of least resistance, the one that's kind of easier. It doesn't mean that it's any less important. And that's definitely one thing I've learned in life is like not everything has to be fucking hard. Sometimes flowing upstream doesn't pay off or isn't the only way. Maggie asks, do you feel any FOMO leaving New York, moving to a place one might consider quote unquote less relevant? She said, not that Vancouver isn't super cool, exclamation mark, asking because I myself am struggling with this. And no, I had this issue no matter where I was moving to, not just Vancouver or Ireland. I just think because New York has so much to offer me career wise, and it's one of the most incredible cities in North America. And so for me, really loving my New York life, loving my Brooklyn life, especially, it was really hard to, for a while anyway, to think of myself being anywhere else. It wasn't that anywhere else wasn't good enough. It's just I couldn't physically picture myself there because I was so now rooted in New York. I was like, oh my God, how am I ever going to uproot? And I remember the first time I came to Vancouver, I was like, oh my God, this place is so beautiful. It's so chill. It's gorgeous, but like I could never live here. Like it's not fast paced enough for me. But really looking back, I was just probably so on edge and so used to the high paced, anxious life that anything remotely relaxing was so unfamiliar to me that I just could never see myself being able to sink into that, and that's not a good thing. But all of the visits here have really settled me into this place. I really know my way around Vancouver now. Like I have all of my spots. I feel very at home here and I can appreciate it for the vibe that it is. It's so beautiful. And I actually think it's a great place for me to prep for going back to Ireland because there's something about like okay, it's a rainy city for a start. It's been beautiful this week. There's been a lot of sunshine, but in general, the the Irish people are going to get what I'm saying. There's like a dampness to winter in Ireland where like all of the concrete is like always wet. Vancouver kind of reminds me of home in that way. The coloring of like the trees and the grass around where I live in Kits, it seems like very, very familiar. It kind of feels like a stepping stone back to home and that sort of environment physically. And I think that that's a good thing. I've definitely done a full circle and can now also see how there's lots of things in Ireland that I have to look forward to. I'm really, really, really excited to spend some quality time with my mom and dad. So, yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. If we can find a nice place to live, that would also be great. I'm just not trying to get ahead of myself. And I just need to see how the next 6 months goes, the next year goes. Recently moved countries too. Would love your take on quote unquote regret in a general sense. Okay, here's my thing. about like regret, or for anyone thinking of moving, I got that question a lot, is like, how do you know when it's time to move? Or I've been at home my whole life and I want to move away and I don't know if I can, or I don't know if I'm brave enough, all of that kind of stuff. Or even if it just comes to like you move and you regret it. First of all, I think you have to give a place a year to 18 months to really know if it's for you or not. Because if you're moving to a new place, especially if you don't know a lot of people, it's not going to feel homey. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be different and it's going to be difficult. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's wrong. If you instinctually do not vibe with the place, obviously don't. But I think you do have to give new places a chance. I think people are very naive when they move, that they think that it's just going to be wonderful straight off the bat. And I don't really know a lot of people where that's been the case. It's generally very hard, very mentally taxing, very lonely. But that's what makes it all the sweeter when you do get past that sort of 18-month, 2 year mark. Which another person asked me as well, like, how long did it take to feel at home in New York? I would say 2 years. Like, I'd say by 2 years, I had like a small inner circle. I was, starting to not be in so much, like have a little bit of fun. The first year or two was really hard in terms of I just put my head down and I worked because I couldn't afford to go out. I don't think I felt like truly like I was living my New York dream till I was 28. So that was like 2, 3 years ago. And I've been there for 8 years. So I would say the first five were trying to find my position in all of it and for me to feel fulfilled and not like I was chasing something there, whether it be friendships or money or stability or health. Once I came back into myself and back into my like true personality, that's when I started having fun and things started making sense. But going back onto regret or trying a new country, you have to give yourself a permission slip with, is just allow yourself the possibility that things may not work out, that they may not go to plan, that you may not like a place. Nobody cares. Even if they have something to say, trust me, the other 99% of the day, nobody cares. It's going to be forgotten about. There's no shame with it. If you try something and you go home with your tail between your legs a little bit, it didn't work out, you gave it a shot. Do you know how brave you have to be to move to a different country? That shit is so fucking iconic, okay? And the majority of the people do not have the balls to do it. And it takes a certain type of person to even take that chance. So don't take any criticism from people that are not willing to risk anything themselves. I think people think they move away and they can never go home. You can go home. Home's not going anywhere, which is something I always say as well. If people are like wondering, umming and ahhing, it's just like home really isn't going anywhere. It's always going to be there. Or if one city or place for you doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you have to stop and go home. Like, try another place. Like, really, I do believe that different cities bring out different energies within us. I'm really interested in astrocartography, actually, which is like map astrology, where you kind of have different experiences in different places. And my Pluto line ran right through New York. Was just like, yeah, one big fat challenge. And I felt like I was there for a purpose to experience those challenges at like this extreme level, and came out the other side. Yeah, like, you just stop viewing things in kind of whether it's success or not. Just start viewing things on whether it's an experience or not. Favorite spots you'll miss? Oh, I feel like I want to do like a recommendations video, like one or two videos based around New York, maybe like how to move to New York, like practical tips, and maybe another one about my ideal few days in New York. I think that would be fun to do like standalone videos for those, maybe like little bonus midweek watches that would kind of take me down memory lane and to all the spots that I love hanging out in. How did you process the move, leaving such a big part of your life and chosen home behind? Really great question. I sat with the bits that felt deeply uncomfortable. For example, like I mentioned earlier, New York for me had such a grip on my how I viewed my career and my success, and always feeling like I want to achieve more and do something bigger while I was there and all of these things. But so I really had to put myself in the mental position of, what would I be like if I didn't earn any money? Who would I be? What would I do instead? How would I adapt? if that was to be the case, and just kind of viewing it from all angles of discomfort I felt around the security that I thought New York gave me. And eventually, I think with all things as well, you just have to remind yourself you're safe, you're okay, you know, you don't need to be triggered. It's not a survival threat. Yes, it's a little scary to make that jump, but I think as well with the hypnosis, I was just like, I have this extra skill now. If I feel like hypnosis really gave me the little bit of confidence I needed that I can do other things, and that, God forbid, social media work dried up as soon as I left, I would have a different skill, make a decent living off of for whatever time that I needed until I figured something else out. I think it really helped to deconstruct any parts that I felt I was really clinging onto, or that I felt like was trying to halt me from making a decision that I wanted to make, and really just leaning into anywhere I was feeling resistant. So it's a bit like a mind map, right, where you're working backwards. So you have this idea, okay, New York tied to income, which is tied to safety, which is tied to jobs. And then kind of asking myself, what is my relationship between money and safety? And reminding myself that I am safe, reminding myself that I have a support system, asking myself what would make me feel safer if this thing was to not be there. Is there anything I can do within my own life, any changes I can make to, I guess, assure myself? And again, like I mentioned, hypnosis was very helpful for that, even though it's not necessarily something I needed to do, but having that option was a little stepping stone, was something I did for myself to detach from this idea of financial security, New York, and safety, you know, and kind of getting myself into a safe headspace, whatever that felt or meant to me. Ingrid asks, how much money did you spend for an average month living in New York City? I don't know if I'd be just comfortable disclosing that. People get really weird when you talk about money online. You're either spending too much, spending too little. And I kind of just don't want to bring that energy onto myself. But I will say another factor for leaving New York, and I mean, it's not a lot better here in Vancouver. The cost of living is extremely high, even more so. It feels more expensive in Vancouver. But out of all of the years that I have been in New York, there's always been inflation. But the past 8 to 9 months is the most noticeable. I've never really noticed it before. It's been such an incremental difference. But I think everyone for the bones of this past year has really felt a big difference in what things cost. And I'm not even an excessive person. You could not go on a night out without spending like $200, like just going for like two drinks and a dinner. And by the time you split it all, add the tip, all of that, it didn't really matter like where you go. It was just getting so pricey to go on a very casual, normal night out. Going out for drinks became a much more considered event. I think I live pretty normally. Like the thing I prioritize would be my groceries, cooking at home, all of that stuff. And I would say I'm somebody that's sensible with their money, but definitely towards the end, between my rent going up every year and the cost of everything going up, it felt like the money that I was earning was the same as the money I was spending, and I felt like it was definitely becoming unsustainable. What I will say is that splitting this place with my boyfriend is a quarter of what I was paying. So moving here has also been a big financial relief. Not that I couldn't afford my life in New York. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I've been recording for an hour and 40 minutes. So I think that is time to wrap things up. Thank you all for joining me on this little adventure. It feels so nice to just whisper into this mic and not talk so loud. Like I said, I've been busy filming videos. I already have like 2 other videos filmed for me to edit. Things are going to be good for you guys. Also, if you're new, if you've been thinking about subscribing, you absolutely should, because December is going to be chock-a-block. I hope you are all doing well. I'm sending you all lots of love. If you've been feeling lonely or you just need a hug, you've had a rough week, I'm sending you a big old energetic online hug right now. Go show each other some love in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know where you're at. I'm sure I'll be able to reply to all the comments on this video. It'll be probably more manageable than my last one. So I'll see you down there and I hope you have a great week. Oh, I'm too far away to go. Bye. See you guys later.